Oh, oh God. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Gabester here. This is the normal healer guide for Paragons of the Klaxxi. This guide should give players of the healer role all the basics they need to know to properly handle this fight on normal. So let's get started. Now, while this doesn't impact you directly as a healer, it's good to know the basic mechanic of the fight. There are 9 Paragons or Klaxxi in total, but the order that they spawn in is completely random, determined at the start of the raid week. That said, you're only fighting 3 of the Paragons at any given time. When you kill one of them, the other 2 remaining will heal to full, and the next Paragon in line with the ready to fight buff will come down and engage. So because of that, there is a lot of potential randomness and chaos in this fight that you have to be kind of aware of. Now, when any of these Klaxxi die in the fight, any player in the raid can right-click on their corpse to interact with it and gain a one-time buff. This buff is based on the Klaxxi that was killed. So for healers, there are 2 specific Klaxxi and therefore 2 Paragon Powers that you can distribute among healers. So if you're using 3 healers, that means one of your healers doesn't get one, or at least one that benefits healing directly. But the healer guys, the actual buffs, are from Zarl the Poisoned Mind. So his Paragon Power is Vast Apothecary Knowledge, and this is the better of the healer powers by far. Basically what this does is, it's a 30-second cooldown. You'll get an extra action bar, or button rather, and when you use it for the next 10 seconds, all healing you do basically leaves a store or a bank on everyone. After the 10 seconds is over, any time the player takes damage from that point forward, all that stored up healing will activate at once on the player. So it's just a good ability for those periods where there's extra raid damage or whatnot, and it's best used on players that can push out a lot of healing on multiple targets at the same time, so that you can basically stack up a lot of banked healing in that 10-second period while it's active. The other healer Paragon Power is from Iokuk the Lucid, and this one is not all that good, especially in 10-man, unfortunately. Basically what this does is when the player heals someone of a particular class, it will copy those heals onto all other players with the same class type. So just as a quick example, we have 2 paladins in our raids, so our paladin healer actually picked it up. So when he would heal himself, it would also heal our other paladin. But in 10-man, there just aren't usually that many duplicate classes. So in most cases, you're just healing one player of the only class of their type, and you don't get any extra from that. But that's just the other healer Paragon Power to pick up. So Iokuk the Lucid and Zarl the Poisoned Mind. So the final thing to be aware of as a healer, of course, is heavy damage abilities. And there are quite a number of these, and because everything's so random, I think the best thing is just to go through them for the mob and talk about them a bit. So there you can see the list. These are the main ones to worry about as a healer. From Zarl the Poisoned Mind, he will use Catalyst, which basically causes random raid members, based on their colors, essentially, to take some form of damage. There are 6 different possible abilities, but the gist of it is that they all do some heavy damage to the raid. So when he's active and he uses Catalyst, make sure you top everyone off, or use a raid cooldown. For Corvin the Prime, he'll use Vicious Assault on the tank, which is something that is preceded by a stun on that same tank. This will do heavy damage over 3 seconds to anyone in front of the boss, which should just be the tank. So make sure you watch that current tank closely, keep them topped off. They should use a cooldown if possible. Iokuk the Lucid uses Calculation. This creates a fiery link, which you can see on the screen there, between a number of random players. Usually it's 3 to 4, depending again on the randomness involved. These players need to spread apart from one another. The further they are from one another, the less damage taken, and everyone else just avoids the fire beams. But again, those players will take some pretty heavy damage while it's active, so keep them topped off. Karaz the Locust uses Whirling, which targets random raid members, usually ranged players, but anyone that gets touched by him when he spins around will become afflicted by Whirling. This does pretty heavy damage, about 200,000 physical per second, and sort of stuns the player. So again, watch for that, and especially if you have an indicator on your raid frames who has got the Whirling debuff, that'll help you a lot with that. And then finally, Hissek the Swarmkeeper uses Aim, which you can see being cast right there in a straight line in front of me. This basically targets a random raid member, creates a line between the raid member and the boss, and after 5 seconds, it will do massive damage to that target. However, this damage is split among all targets in the line as well, so it's important for your raid to kind of get in a line and spread out. You don't want to be stacked up in that line, however, because you'll do some AE damage to players around you. So you have to stand in sort of a straight line a few yards from one another and soak up that damage. But once again, topping everyone off before that aim actually hits is pretty important. So those are all the main abilities to worry about as a healer. Other than that, it's all pretty standard fare. But just watch when those guys are active and they use those big abilities that people are topped off and you're mitigating that damage as much as possible. That should cover everything for the normal healer guide for Paragons of the Klaxxi. As always, good luck, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, please subscribe.